Okay, so students, welcome to the next class, which is on capacitors and dielectrics. Here we first of all start with the distinction between conductors and insulators. So we all know that conductors are those materials through which electric charge can flow or pass. For example, metals, earth, human body, mercury, etc. These are the conductors, and conductors have a large number of free electrons in them, and these free electrons, they carry negative charge on them. And if you will apply some electric field across a conductor, then the free electrons present in them, they will move opposite to the direction of the electric field. Apart from metals, we also have electrolytes, which are conductors. Electrolytes are charged solutions, and in which we have positive and negative ions. So when you will apply some electric field in an electrolyte, so positive ions, they will move in the same direction of the electric field, and the negative ions, they will move opposite to the electric field. And this movement occurs because of this electric field, there will be electrostatic force acting on these ions or free electrons, and which will cause acceleration in them, hence they will move. But in the case of conductors, although electrons, they move opposite to electric field because of the electrostatic force, but they will never be able to escape from the surface of the conductors, because in order to escape from the surface of the conductors, a large amount of energy is required by some external agency, so which is not provided. So that's why the electrons, they will not leave the surface of the conductors, but yes, they will flow. In insulators, so insulators are those materials through which electric charge cannot flow. We have examples like glass, mica, etc., ebonite, plastic, etc., which are the insulators. And insulators, they have very few, or you can say negligible, free electrons in them. And in the insulators, electrons, they are tightly bound to the nucleus of the atoms. And these insulators, they are also called dielectrics. Insulators, they are also called as the dielectrics. Current cannot flow through dielectrics, but induced charges may appear on the surfaces of the dielectrics, right? So they're like dielectrics are like insulators or semiconductors, you can say. Their conductivity lies between that of the conductors and the insulators. Here we also have to understand the difference between free charges and bound charges. So all of you must be knowing that in any substance, there are large number of atoms, and inside the atoms there are electrons, protons, and neutrons. Neutrons are neutral, protons carry positive charge, electrons carry negative charge. Protons and neutrons, they are present inside the nucleus of the atoms, whereas the electrons, they are moving in circular orbits around the nucleus. Now those electrons which are present in the inner orbits, they are experiencing strong electrostatic force on them due to the nucleus, and so they are tightly bound. They are tightly bound to the nucleus. Whereas those electrons which are present in the outermost orbits, they are comparatively at a far distance from the nucleus, so they experience comparatively weaker electrostatic force on them due to the nucleus, so they are loosely bound. And these electrons which are present in the outermost orbits, they are called the valence electrons, and because they are loosely bound, so these electrons can leave their atoms and they can become free at the room temperature. They acquire sufficient energy by which they become free and they detach from their atoms. Once they detach, then they are called the free electrons, or the conduction electrons because they are helpful in conducting the electricity. Now once the atom loses the electrons, then the atom itself becomes positive ion. Now this becomes the bound charge. The positive ions, they are the bound charge, they can't move, whereas the free electrons, they become the free charge. Okay, so in a bad conductor, free electrons or the free charge are not present. Okay, so these bad conductors, they are called the dielectric substances, they are insulators. Now we come to this term capacitance of a conductor. What do you mean by capacitance? Capacitance of a conductor is the measure of the ability of the conductor to hold or store electric charge on it. So that means if a conductor is capable of storing large amount of charge on it, so we will say that its electrical capacitance is high. And it has been found experimentally that charge produced on a conductor is directly proportional to the electric potential of the conductor. So Q is directly proportional to V, and then we introduce a constant here C. This is the constant of proportionality, and this C is called as the electrical capacitance of the conductor. So Q is equal to CV. This is the first formula that we obtained from the definition of capacitance. And the value of this capacitance depends upon the size and shape of the conductor. It depends upon the surrounding medium in which the conductor is present, and also the capacitance depends upon the presence of other conductors in the vicinity of the given conductor. So from this formula Q is equal to CV, we can write C is equal to Q upon V. So we may say that the capacitance is the ratio of the charge given to the conductor to the rise in potential of the conductor, right? That is, C is the ratio of Q and V. And from this formula, because charge is measured in coulomb, potential is measured in volt, so SI unit of capacitance becomes coulomb per volt, and this is also called farad. Coulomb per volt is also called farad, and 1 farad is equal to 1 coulomb per volt. 1 farad is 1 coulomb per volt. How do we define 1 farad? So if you apply a potential of 1 volt on a conductor, and if a charge of 1 coulomb is produced on that conductor, then we say that the capacitance of that conductor is 1 farad. But this 1 farad is a large unit of capacitance, so we also use for practical purposes some smaller units. These are microfarad, nanofarad, picofarad, millifarad. 1 microfarad is 10 to the power minus 6 farad, 1 nanofarad is equal to 10 to the power minus 9 farad, 1 picofarad is 10 to the power minus 12 farad, 1 millifarad is 10 to the power minus 3 farad. The dimensions of capacitance will be equal to the dimensions of charge and the dimensions of potential. Charge is your current into time, so that's why dimensions for charge becomes A into T, A for current, T for time. And potential is, work upon charge. So for work we write ml to the power 2 t raised to the power minus 2, and divided by, for charge, current into time, A into T. And simplify this, so we get ultimately the dimensions of capacitance as m to the power minus 1, L to the power minus 2, T raised to the power minus 4, A raised to the power 2. A is not ampere here, A is current. Symbol for current, you can say. Now we can discuss here the capacitance of a spherical conductor. So you can assume that suppose there is a spherical conductor, its radius is A, and then we are giving a charge plus Q to this conductor, and this charge plus Q spreads uniformly on the outer surface of this conductor. And electric lines of force, they will originate from the surface of the conductor and they will travel radially outwards. Now potential at any point on this conductor, this surface of this conductor becomes an equipotential surface because the potential will be same at every point on this conductor. So this potential V is equal to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q upon A. But capacitance is Q upon V. So in place of V, you substitute this value of V. So after substituting and solving, you get C equals to 4 pi epsilon naught A. This becomes the formula which you should learn for calculating the capacitance of a spherical conductor. We notice that capacitance is directly proportional to the radius. So graph between capacitance and radius will be a straight line. Also, if this spherical conductor is kept in a material medium whose dielectric constant is K, then the capacitance will be given by Ck is equal to 4 pi epsilon naught Ka. Remember, for vacuum the dielectric constant K is 1. So a graph between capacitance and dielectric constant will also be a straight line. And then from this formula C equals to 4 pi epsilon naught A, we can write that epsilon naught is equal to C upon 4 pi A. For capacitance the unit is farad, for radius the unit is meter. So farad per meter becomes a unit for absolute permittivity, for which the symbol is epsilon naught in this formula. You remember that one more unit for absolute permittivity is C to the power 2 n to the power minus 1 m to the power minus 2. This we studied in the chapter of Coulomb's law. Now the next topic here is the potential energy of a charged conductor. If there is a conductor and charge on that conductor is Q and the capacitance of that conductor is C, then potential on the surface of that conductor is V is equal to Q upon C. Now suppose you wish to add an extra amount of charge dq. You are adding an extra amount of charge dq to the surface of this conductor, and you are moving the small charge dq from infinity and bringing it to the surface of the conductor. Then the small work done in this process will be dw is equal to v into dq, because v is equal to w by q. So w is equal to qv. So using this concept, the work done will be v into dq, and so dw becomes equal to q upon c into dq. V is replaced by q upon c. But this is only a small work done when a small charge dq is brought on the surface of this conductor. What will be total work done if the charge is to be increased from 0 to q? So to find out the total work done in increasing the charge on the conductor from 0 to q, we have to integrate this value of dw. So total work done becomes dw, total work done w becomes equal to integration of q upon c into dq, lower limit 0, upper limit q. C is constant, it comes outside the sign of integration. So 1 upon c into integration of 0 to q into q dq. Now 1 upon c remains as it is, but integration of q becomes q square by 2. And then in this expression you have to apply the limits, upper limit q and lower limit 0. So the term becomes 1 upon c q square by 2 minus 0 square by 2, and then simplify. So w becomes 1 upon 2 q square by c. And this work done will be stored in the form of potential energy in that electric field which is present in the vicinity of that conductor. So this work done becomes the potential energy of the conductor, and this potential energy is stored in the electric field. So U is equal to half Q square by C. Now Q can also be replaced by CV. So U becomes equal to CV whole square and upon C. And on solving it becomes U is equal to half CV square. We can rewrite this as half CV into V, and then C, and then this CV becomes Q. So one more formula we get U equals to 1 by 2 into QV. So in all, three formulas for potential energy are there: half Q square by C, half CV square, and half QV. You have to learn all these formulae for doing numericals. The SI unit for potential energy is joule, symbol is capital J. And as you can see, that because the potential energy is dependent upon the square of charge, so that's why graph between u and q will be a parabola on the positive side. And similarly the graph, because of this formula, u equals to half cv square, u is dependent upon the square of the potential, so the graph between u and v will also be a parabolic graph. It will be a parabolic graph. So this is it for today. Please write this in your fair notebooks and learn it, read it, learn these derivations. Then I'll come up with the other derivations of this chapter in the next videos. Thank you.